The Gorge is out on Apple TV Plus, new science fiction romance film from director Scott Derrickson, who previously made the two Doctor Strange movies and Black Phone. This stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Miles Teller, and Sigourney Weaver. The two leads play elite sniper mercenaries, one working in the West, the other for Moscow. Each of them gets a year-long assignment where they're dropped into this unknown location. They have no idea where they are in the world. They are put into a watchtower. Each of the two is on the opposite sides of this gigantic gorge filled with fog. They are told not to make contact with the other person, not to leave their post, and for the entire year monitor the gorge and ensure that nothing comes out of it. But of course, eventually these two do make contact. They start this charming little flirtatious relationship, watching each other through the binoculars, and eventually decide to actually cross the gorge and meet in person, which of course leads to trouble. So I'm sad to say I was rather disappointed with this film. I think that the concept is sound. The two leads, especially Taylor-Joy, are charming and have good chemistry. And having the bottom of the gorge be inspired by paintings of Zdzisław Beksiński, a Polish painter whose works tended to be weird, creepy, cosmic horror type stuff, was also a really good idea on paper. But where the movie completely falls apart is in execution. The plot becomes pretty stupid pretty quickly, and especially the dialogue is just abysmal. Characters are constantly stating the obvious and there is absolutely zero subtlety. The movie is also completely disinterested in actually having some meaningful character journeys or character arcs and maybe exploring the impact of solitude on a person. The entire character arcs in the movie is just they fall in love with each other, and that's that. I think that having Beksiński as your starting point for the design is a huge wasted opportunity when you end up not actually going hard on the cosmic horror aspects. The inside of the gorge ends up looking cheap and shitty because of all the colored smoke. It looks like some sort of television, game show. And the creatures behave kind of like zombie humans. They move like humans. They fight like humans. There isn't a sense that this is some unknowable, incomprehensible form of life. I actually thought back to Annihilation while watching this, and how much better that film handled this particular aspect. And it had some similarities with human characters going into this strange transformed location and experiencing these new forms of life. But Annihilation was so much better and more interesting at that. I think there's a lot of clearly visible bad green screens in the movie, and the CGI is largely wonky. With the exception of some creature designs, the visuals in general felt pretty flat and generic and low effort. I also think that the final act feels like a massive stretch and it's kind of stupid. Plus, it really doesn't feel like it has high stakes. The second act definitely projects the sense of danger much more, and then the finale just kind of feels like a walk in the park in comparison for these two characters. I didn't like the music choices. Some of the songs on the soundtrack stand out in the worst possible way, like absolutely no subtlety at all, especially all along the watchtower towards the end. I was like, seriously, that's the song? The final 2 points. One is about Sigourney Weaver, who is clearly in this just for an easy paycheck. But what made it funny for me was how her character, she's this sort of person controlling everything from behind the scenes, but at the end she insists on being part of the final act physically and going there, even though it's totally unnecessary. She cannot contribute in any way, and it's just putting herself in danger for zero reason at all. Well, other than having a recognizable face there at the end instead of just nameless thugs for the heroes to kill. And secondly, there is a scene where the characters are still in their separate towers, but now in contact, and there's this montage of things. And first they play chess, with Taylor-Joy being the better one, which made me go, hang on, is this a heavy-handed meta callback to the Queen's Gambit? And that scene was immediately followed by the two of them playing drums, and I was like, Whiplash now? And apparently these scenes were in the script before the two actors signed on for the movie, and they asked Derrickson to change them, to remove them, which he refused. I'm not sure I believe that story. I think it's too big of a coincidence, and even if it was, I do think that they should have changed it, because as it is, It's too obvious. It immediately takes you out of the movie and breaks any suspension of disbelief. So there you have it. Not a bad premise, not bad design inspirations, but the end product is generic, weak, and badly executed. Not worth your time.